I'm Jolene Ivey, chair of the Prince George's County Council, and my dad was Captain Joseph Stephenson. He was a Buffalo soldier in World War II, and he fought in Italy primarily. So it was a big deal, and he was, well decorated. He didn't talk about it a lot, about the decorations. 1 Bronze Star, 2 Purple Hearts, and a Silver Star. So that's what's on his headstone at Arlington. Even after he had died, he would get letters from people who he had saved. There were people he had saved, on the battlefield, and they would write to him and say, I wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for you. And every Christmas, we'd get these cards. This is one of his first military pictures. And, of course, this is him when he had long retired.
Can you describe who the Buffalo Soldiers were?
The Buffalo Soldiers were an historic group of men who fought in the Army. It goes way back, to the Civil War. But for my dad, it was for World War II, all-black regiment. And they actually fought. They were infantrymen, and they fought in World War II. And they did a lot to free people in Italy or protect Italy.
Mm-hmm. And he went on to fight in the Korean War as well?
He did. He was kind of insane. And once he was home, he remained in the military. I think he was teaching at Howard University or something. And one of his friends, Mr. Kyler, came home from Korea and said, real soldiers have this medal. And it's a medal that shows you fought in 2 wars. And Dad went right down to the Pentagon and volunteered. And they said, you're crazy. Go home and think about it. And he came back the next day, and he said, no, I really do want to go. So they sent him to Korea. And he said, while he was there being shot at, he said, what in the world am I doing here? So he may have regretted his decision, but yeah, he fought in the Korean War as well.
He could have called it quits.
Oh, yeah. No, he definitely did not have to go to Korea. He chose to go to Korea. And but he was proud. He was a proud man. He was a proud soldier. He did have a lot to say about how the military treated Black soldiers. They were segregated in World War II, and he just felt like, they didn't get the same benefits, the same treatment, not while they were there. And then when they came home, he said that they would be on a train or whatever, and they would see German prisoners being treated better and having better seating than the military men that he served with. The GI Bill didn't help him the same way it would help a white soldier, because a white soldier could buy any house they were qualified for. My father could only buy a house in certain neighborhoods. And so that just, was not fair, and definitely hurt Black community for generations.
At what point in your life did you recognize the magnitude of what he had accomplished?
I am not sure. I would say James McBride wrote a book called Miracle at St. Anna about the Buffalo Soldiers in Italy. And I was like, this guy wrote a whole book about what my dad went through. It was fictionalized, but, I just thought that was amazing. Then Spike Lee did a movie based on that book. And I was like, this is amazing.
That was in 2008, right?
I think so. And then Spike Lee got all the men he could find, all the Buffalo soldiers still living who he could find. I guess it was about 7 or 8 of them, and had them come to Brooklyn. And he taped interviews with them. And he treated them very, very well. He really did.
What did your dad think about all that?
He thought it was great. And he thought that Spike Lee was the best man in the whole world. So I'm glad that he had that experience, and he felt so appreciated. There's another time my dad and stepmom went to Italy for him to be honored. It was him and I think 2 other men, and they were being honored by Genoa for what they had done to help save their town. And so he got an award there, and they had marching bands and operas and all kinds of stuff in their honor. I wish I could have gone with them. It just sounded amazing. When they got off the plane, they were so used to being just fawned over. When they came home, my dad said, "Where's the marching band?"
That's great, that he did get that reception that he deserved.
Yes.
As soon as the war was over, it came later in life.
Yeah.
The recognition did eventually come.
It did eventually come primarily from people in Italy, and then, of course, from James McBride and Spike Lee.
Can you talk about what he did after his military service?
So Dad became a teacher. He taught for 10 years at Douglas High School in South County, and then 10 years at High Point High School. When he taught at Douglas, it was still during segregation. And he also was the track coach and everything else they could think of. They just piled so much on my dad. Then he went to High Point, and he went to help desegregate High Point High School. And that's where I ended up going. I really enjoyed it. He was one of the first people to start teaching Black history. And he went to Liberia one time on his own dime because he just wanted to see Africa and know more of what he could teach his students. So he really loved teaching. He really did.
What was he like? How would you describe him?
He was very warm, relaxed, easy to talk to. And he lived with us for the last 5.5 years of his life, which was great. He really got to know all our sons in a way they would not have otherwise. We had 5 sons. And so they really got to be closer with him than they would have been.
What do you think that he would want to be remembered for?
Probably for being a good dad.
If you could talk to him again, is there anything you would want to say?
I'll mess up my makeup.
You had a lot of time with him before he passed, and I imagine said those things to him.
Yeah. No, we loved him, and he loved us. So.
I am Council Member Ingrid S. Watson, and I represent District 4 on the Prince George's County Council, and my grandfather was Clarence C. Finley. My grandfather was best known for being part of the Fighting 99th Fighter Squadron of the Tuskegee Airmen. He was an original Tuskegee Airman and part of the group that led the force to protect the fighter pilots in World War II. He also was a recipient of the Horatio Alger Award, and he had numerous awards for his volunteer service as well. This is my grandfather, front and center of the squadron photo that he took.
There's a new world up here. A man has to learn his way around. It takes many weeks of learning to make a fighter pilot.
He rose from, very bare beginnings and, pulled himself up from his bootstraps, as they like to say, and became one of the top executive vice presidents of a major corporation as a black man back in the 70s.
So he was very prominent, obviously, with his military career, but also in the business sector.
Correct.
And the one thing that my grandfather rarely did was promote himself. He was very humble. So we saw what he was doing in the business world, but he really rarely sat us down and told us of all the things he did. So it's interesting when I read over his bio, I see the wonderful things that he very rarely spoke about because he was always a family person first.
At what point was it that you fully realized his contribution to history?
I fully realized it probably when I was in college. I attended a historically black college, and my grandfather was good friends with the president. And the president actually asked if I could come look at the college based on the recommendation. He had actually given my grandfather an honorary doctorate So I attended the college and I learned the history of the Tuskegee Airmen there. And I found out when I went home after looking at all the pictures on the walls with the airplanes and some of the other pictures of my grandfather in his uniform, I found out he was a Tuskegee Airman. And that's when he kind of sat me down and told me the story.
Wow. And what was that like to really get all that information directly from him?
It was pretty mind-blowing. It was great in a sense that, you know, he was part of history. And, you know, this was my grandfather who I enjoyed Sunday dinners with and went on family vacations with. But like I said, he rarely spoke about himself, very humble. So the fact that he was a history maker in that sense was just a wonderful thing to understand and find out about him.
What was his relationship like with your children?
Very good relationship, of course. My kids, thankfully, were old enough to remember and spend quality time with him.
How would you describe him?
Just one of the nicest people. One of the nicest people you ever wanted to meet. He loved his family. My grandfather was a family man. He prioritized us like no one ever would. And he started that with his own family. When his father left, he had to take care of his siblings. And he did that until they all passed away. And he was the last living member of his immediate family. So not only did he care for them and their children and their grandchildren, but we were his priority. We went on family vacations, we had Sunday dinners together, and we talked all the time. And my grandfather would call me every year on my birthday and sing happy birthday to me.
Hi, Ingrid.
So when I was outgoing president of my sorority, they surprised me and got a video of him and my mom.
And a wonderful granddaughter, and I love you very much. It makes us so proud of you. We love you.
You know, when my grandfather was young, his father abandoned the family when he was 11, and he had 5 brothers and sisters. His mother was a Norwegian immigrant. She was 16 when she came to America, and so he had to help take care of his family. When he graduated high school at the age of 16, he was offered college scholarships. He refused them because he stayed home to take care of his mom and his family. He enrolled in junior college, worked his way through by delivering newspapers, cutting lawns, cleaning basements, and doing other odd jobs. So after graduating, he joined Charm Tread Mills, a carpet manufacturer, making $12 a week. So by 1974, he was made Burlington's corporate group vice president, a post he held until his retirement in 1987. So when he received his Horatio Alger Award in 1978, Burlington was the world's largest manufacturer of textiles, and my grandfather was responsible for 6 divisions of the company.
Is there anything particular that you would do together when you spent time?
The one great memory that I have is him coming to visit for President Obama's inauguration.
That all are equal, all are free, and all deserve a chance to pursue their full measure of happiness.
And we had some great times then. He stayed for about 4 or 5 days, attended the inauguration, and was quite adamant about being there for the first Black president. So that was great. We also spent time when he came to receive the Congressional Gold Medal from the president. At that time it was President George Bush, and he awarded the gold medal to the Tuskegee Airmen.
The Tuskegee Airmen helped win a war, and you helped change our nation for the better.
So at that time, there were about 300 of them that came to the Capitol, and we were all in the rotunda watching the gold medal ceremony. That was absolutely amazing.
I salute you for the service to the United States of America.
and I got a chance to meet many of the Tuskegee Airmen. And my grandfather knew so many of them. They had a very nice reception, and I got a chance to speak with them. So a lot of history there. So that was a wonderful moment to share with him. My grandfather, of course, has the original, but he purchased these for his grandchildren and children so we could all have a copy of what he received on that day. So it's very special.
I know you have a lot of mementos and pictures here.
Yes.
Can you talk about what your family has done to preserve your grandfather's legacy?
My grandfather had, and my grandmother, Emma, they had 2 children, my mother, Ingrid, and my Aunt Beth. And my Aunt Beth and my uncle and my father actually carried on the legacy for the Tuskegee Airmen. They have conventions every year. So the children of the airmen and any relatives attend those conventions to continue the legacy. And so my mom and dad and Beth and her husband Charles worked hard to do that, and I know Charles still takes part in some of the Tuskegee Airmen activities. So I'm hopeful that, you know, in my generation we can do the same. I have a brother as well, his name is James, and then, you know, we both have children, so we're going to pass this legacy on to them, and hopefully they will do the same, because we never wanted them to be forgotten.
My name is Stanley Earley. I am the Director of the Office of Management and Budget in Prince George's County. And my mother was Charity Adams Earley. My mother was the commander of the 688 Central Postal Directory Battalion, and she was eventually a lieutenant colonel, which at the time was the highest ranking black woman officer in the Army. The 688 was, you know, the only battalion of black women deployed overseas during World War II. They did a lot, and there's a lot that's important in terms of, you know, representation and so forth. But what's really important is the task and what they did, and we wouldn't be talking about it if they hadn't had such success. There was a backlog of 17 million pieces of mail, and some of this mail had been there for a year or more, and some of it, there were hangars full of stuff, like you have cakes that have been there for a year with not well-fed rats coming through. So they had a lot of, so the situation was not good. But the task that they did was they got this out, and being, you know, a budget guy, I'm a math person. So you figure 17 million pieces of mail, they got it done in 90 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop, whatever's happening. You multiply that out, that means that one piece of mail on average went out every 0.4 of a second, 90 days nonstop. No computers, no sorting machines, all totally by hand. That's extraordinary.
There's a movie that just came out.
I heard about it, yeah.
The 6888, a Tyler Perry film.
Mm-hmm.
Kerry Washington plays your mom.
Attention! Soldiers, I am Captain Charity Adams. Welcome to the Women's Army Corps.
When Kerry Washington came out and introduced herself as your mother, what was that like?
I was sitting with my sister when I first saw it, and my cousins. We were all sort of, and it was, and we were going, well, this person, well, it's not quite her. And then we were going, but that's got the essence of her, you know. But it was kind of a nice one. And I had met Kerry Washington about a month before, and I had, you know, and we had a nice conversation, and I didn't know how this would play, but I was real pleased. I was very pleased, and one of the things that I've had to do is separate that there's almost 3 different people. There's my mother, that real person. There is the movie person, and then there's the general public perception person. Those are really almost 3 different people. They overlap a lot, though, and the movie did a good job of catching the essence of things.
Were they celebrated after the fact and
No.
following the war? Was there any kind of reception that she received when she came back?
No, none.
Nothing.
None further. I mean, A lot of African American units did not get unit citations that I believe they otherwise would have gotten.
Is it difficult at all that so much of this attention and these accolades have happened after she passed and she didn't get to experience it?
Yes, it is. But I'm glad I'm glad they're happening. You know, I think it would have been really nice for her to see all this recognition, and she really would have enjoyed it. But I don't think she felt like, oh, it was terrible. We didn't, you know, because she felt like we did something spectacular that was important. Other rewards are good, but the rewards of doing it and succeeding are the biggest rewards. And I think she was very, very proud of that. There was one big accolade that she got that I just thought was wonderful. In the mid-1990s, President Clinton had an event in Washington. It was a recognition of black military figures going through history. And General Shalley-Casvili, who was the chair of the Joint Chiefs at the time, introduced my mother, who was a really good speaker. That's when she was an excellent speaker.
What a good feeling I've had tonight to see so many people with whom I served. Those of us who were in the first group of women to join the military were the guinea pigs upon whom every regulation was tried.
My mother introduced President Clinton.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
And then when he came up on stage, he said, I don't want to put a damper on this evening, but I have to figure out whether I need to dismiss
or simply demote whoever it was who arranged for me to speak after Colonel Early.
That was, she always appreciated that.
If ever there was an embodiment of what we came here to celebrate tonight, if ever there was evidence that this celebration is occurring at least 50 years too late, it is Colonel Early.
At Fort Leavenworth, there is a sculpture garden, which is outside of the command school of the United States Army, which is focused on African Americans who've made a major impact in the Army. And in 2018, a memorial was created, which is basically a monument. It has a bust of my mother and a structure underneath that has the names of all of the women who were in the 688. I'm going to choke up on this, but at Fort Leavenworth in 2018, when they had that event, they had a parade, and they never got a parade. They were very pleased. And that was sort of when the major recognition started, and since then a number of things have happened. You asked me about hearing about the movie. Hearing about the fort renaming, that was the big thing that was really amazing. And they had a wonderful event, and they renamed the fort, and it was one of the high point experiences of my life. People from all over the world came, and it's just an amazing event. I had at least 2 women generals come up to me to say they felt that there was no chance that they would have the role they have if it hadn't been for my mother.
If you could talk to your mom again, is there anything that you would want to say or any message you would want to give to her?
Hi. Look, I don't know. I guess I would love for her to be able to see all this stuff. I would like to know what she thinks of Kerry Washington's role. There is also being developed a Broadway musical. Blair Underwood is the executive producer of that one.
Wow.
And I've had a lot of conversations with them. In fact, I went up to New York to talk with their folks. And I would love to tease her about that. And it's actually even more focused on my mother than and I said, so you're going to have a musical, and My mother could do many things, but sing was not one of them.
Sing and dance?
No, that was not one of her things. So that's, I think she would enjoy that immensely.